Have you ever stared at a neighbor's perfect, dark green, lush lawn and wondered how they pulled it off? Well, welcome to this explainer, because today we are talking about exactly that kind of transformation. We all want that barefoot-ready yard, right? But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. That breathtaking lawn, it isn't built from the grass down. It is entirely built from the dirt up. You might be wondering why so many weekend seeding projects just completely fail before the first blade of grass even has a chance to sprout. I mean, you buy the absolute most expensive seed at the store, you water it faithfully, and then nothing happens. Or worse, you just get this patchy, weedy mess. Well, the reason is that the secret to a gorgeous yard isn't actually the grass seed at all. It's the foundational ground preparation. If you neglect the dirt, you're sacrificing the lawn. It really is that simple. Okay, let's dive into this. And hey, if you're a complete beginner, do not worry. We're going to take this seemingly massive chore and turn it into a clear, start-to-finish roadmap. We'll be covering 1. Assessing your soil first. 2. Clearing the planting area. 3. Tools to loosen the soil. 4. Leveling and grading techniques. 5. Seeding your new lawn. And finally, 6. Caring for your grass. Starting right off with Section 1. Assess your soil first. The foundation of a great lawn. Look, before you even think about buying a fancy rake or a massive bag of seed, you absolutely must understand the raw dirt you're working with. The very first thing you need to check is your soil's pH level, which is just a measure of its acidity or alkalinity. For a lawn to truly thrive, it wants to live in this perfect sweet spot between 6.2 and 7.0. You can grab a simple soil test kit from your local cooperative extension or really any hardware store. If that test comes back showing your soil's too acidic, meaning that number is lower than 6.2, you're going to need to amend it. Adding a mineral treatment like dolomitic limestone or something like Jonathan Green Magacal will balance it right out. You're basically building a super welcoming home for those delicate new roots. Now, besides pH, you also need to understand your physical soil type. Let's contrast clay versus sandy soil, for example. Clay is firm, fine-grained, and sticky when it gets wet, so it compacts incredibly easily, which ends up choking out your grass roots. Sandy soil, on the other hand, is loose, gritty, and drains so fast that the roots just dry right out. But guess what? The ultimate hero for both of those extremes is organic matter, specifically compost. Working rich compost into your dirt actually improves the drainage if you have clay, and it helps retain vital moisture if you have sand. Now for clay, gypsum is also a fantastic amendment, and if you have sandy soil, it really benefits from horse or cow manure or even liquid clay. Okay, I need you to listen to me very, very carefully on this next point. Never mix sand and clay. I know it might sound logical to loosen up sticky clay by dumping a bunch of sand into it, but if you do that, you will literally create a dense, cement-like texture. It's a disaster. It will completely ruin your yard's drainage, suffocate your soil, and absolutely kill your new lawn. Just stick to organic compost. Moving along to Section 2, clear the planting area. We're starting with a clean slate. So with the soil science out of the way, it is time to literally get our hands dirty. A clean canvas is mandatory for an even growing surface. Here is your clearance timeline. Step 1. Manually get rid of any large debris, rocks, brush, or old stumps. Step 2. You have to eliminate the competition. You just can't throw grass seed over existing weeds and hope for the best, right? You can kill existing grass and weeds naturally using plastic sheeting, which is a process called solarization. Or you could rent a sod cutter. Or simply use a non-selective herbicide like Roundup. Finally, Step 3. Once all that old stuff is dead, rake out the dead vegetation so you are left with bare, exposed soil. All right, Section 3, tools to loosen soil. It's time to choose your weapons. Every good project needs the right cast of characters, and honestly, using the wrong rake can literally break your back. Let's look at a leaf rake versus a bow or garden rake. A flexible leaf rake with poly or bamboo tines is specifically designed to glide gently over grass to pick up light debris, like leaves. If you try to use it to push heavy dirt, you are just going to snap it. For soil preparation, what you really need is a heavy-duty bow rake. Its rigid metal tines and heavy flathead are engineered specifically to push, pull, and break apart heavy soil, gravel, and mulch. Now, if your yard has some specific challenges, you might need a few essential specialty tools before heading to the hardware store. Here are some really great options. The Fiskars 66-inch shrub rake has this narrow 8-inch head that's just perfect for getting debris out of tight spaces without damaging your existing bushes. For hands and knees precision work in really small beds, grab the Fiskars Exact Hand Rake. If you're dealing with a thick mat of dead grass that's choking your soil, the Aim's adjustable thatch rake has sharp blades that will slice right through it. And hey, if you have a massive lawn, do your shoulders a favor and rent a motorized power rake, like the Greenworks 13-amp dethatcher. Once you have your tools sorted out, it's time to loosen up the ground, and 4 to 6 is your magic number here. You want to loosen your soil to a depth of 4 to 6 inches, making sure it's nice and clump-free. Now, you can totally do this by hand for tiny patches, but for an entire lawn, you're definitely going to want to rent a garden tiller or a smaller mantis tiller. This critical 4 to 6 inch depth is what gives those brand new grass roots the room they desperately need to stretch down and anchor firmly into the earth.
Which brings us to section 4. Leveling and grading techniques. We are setting the stage.
At this point, your soil is nice and loose, but it probably looks a bit like the surface of the moon. Leveling and grading is absolutely critical because leaving low dips or high mounds is going to cause massive water pooling and erosion issues later on. So here's a vital number for your grading project, 1% to 2%. When you're grading your yard, you must ensure there is a 1% to 2% slope dropping away from your home's foundation. To put that into perspective, that's roughly a half-foot to 1-foot drop for every 50 feet of distance. This guarantees that when it rains, water naturally drains away from your house, which protects your basement and keeps your new seeds from swimming in puddles. To get that perfectly smooth grade, you'll want to trade in that garden rake for a landscape leveling rake. These things have wide aluminum heads, sometimes 36 inches across, like the Razorback model. Why use a landscape leveling rake? Well, this tool is basically the secret to fixing those low dips without leaving thick clumps behind. It spreads topsoil evenly, smooths out patchy areas, and creates a pristine, perfect base for overseeding right before the seed finally hits the dirt. And now for the exciting part, Section 5, seeding your new lawn, laying the green.
Finally, the heavy lifting is done. The soil is prepped, leveled, and packed with nutrients. This is the fun part, where all that back-breaking groundwork starts to pay off. To get your seed down properly, you need to choose the right spreader. A broadcast spreader works sort of like a sprinkler, throwing the seed outward in a wide arc. It is fantastic for getting really fast, uniform coverage over a large open yard. On the flip side, a drop spreader drops the seed straight down right between its wheels. It's a lot slower for sure, but it is highly precise, making it perfect for smaller areas where you need to keep seed out of your flower beds or off your driveway.
Let's break down your seeding timeline. Step 1. Apply the seed using your spreader at the recommended rate listed right there on the bag. Seriously, don't overdo it or the seedlings will actually compete and choke each other out. Step 2. Take a rake and very lightly cover the seed by just scratching the surface so the seeds are protected by a tiny bit of soil. And then step 3, and beginners always seem to miss this, tamp down the seed. Go rent a long roller, fill it up with water, and literally roll it over the seeded area. This presses the seed firmly into the dirt so that birds don't just come eat it all and heavy rain doesn't wash it all away.
Almost there. Section 6, caring for your grass, protecting your investment.
Now, I know you might be tempted to just put your feet up and grab a cold drink, but the job isn't over just because the seed is in the ground. Post-seeding care is what actually makes or breaks this entire project. Here are your golden rules for post-seeding care. First, water carefully and frequently. Those seeds absolutely must stay moist to germinate. Whatever you do, do not let that top layer of soil dry out. Second, to help retain that moisture, go ahead and apply a shallow layer of wheat straw right over the dirt. Third, if new weeds start popping up, pull them very gently by hand. You want to completely avoid chemical herbicides at this super fragile stage. Finally, delay mowing for as long as possible to let those new roots establish themselves. When you finally do mow, use something really gentle and lightweight, like a robotic mower such as the Husqvarna Automower 305, just so you don't tear up that fragile new turf. So if we step back, the crucial point and ultimate takeaway is this. Success or failure of a home lawn is closely tied into how well the soil and site was prepared prior to lawn establishment. Your lawn's success or failure was actually determined weeks before the grass ever grew. All that testing, tilling, amending, and grading we talked about, that is the real magic. That is the hard work that guarantees you will be rewarded with a dense, barefoot-ready carpet of green. Real quick before we wrap up, I do want to provide a quick reminder. This explainer is for informational purposes only. Please always be sure to check your local environmental regulations, any water restrictions, and definitely consult your cooperative extension service for advice tailored to your specific regional climate before you begin any major landscaping projects. All right, I want to leave you with this question to think about.
What is the very first step you are going to take today to transform your patch of dirt into the absolute best lawn on the block? Are you going to go buy a soil test kit right now? Are you calling to rent a tiller? Let me know your plan, and please share your success stories in the comments below. You have the full roadmap now, so get out there and start building your perfect lawn from the dirt up. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and hey, happy seeding!